It's not very often that I sit down to play Cities Skylines 2 and, well, I could probably leave that sentence there given my output of Cities Skylines 2 videos over the last few months, but that's not where that sentence is going to end. Because the point I'm trying to make is that it's not very often I sit down to play Cities Skylines 2 and I don't also hit the big red record button. It does happen, usually by accident, but this is one of the times where it wasn't by accident, because I decided it would be a good idea to come into Armadillo and build a bunch of low density houses, because this is something that has needed done for a while and I didn't really think it would be all that interesting to do on camera. So I thought, hey, I've got some music I want to listen to, I've got some emails I want to write and wait for replies for, so I did all of that whilst also just putting a bunch of houses into Armadillo. Now, there is a little bit of method to my madness. Something I was very keen to do was sort of have a transition from some of the bigger buildings down to the smaller ones. So we go from mixed use into row houses, into smaller commercial buildings that work really nicely alongside each other, and then into sort of single lot commercial buildings like this guy, and then into the houses. Now, there are some exceptions. This, I figure, is going to be some kind of car dealership once there's a business in here, and I figure that's something that would kind of be here. So I decided to put some more commercial on the other side alongside a gas station and whatever this is. I'm not actually sure. What do you do? You do vehicles. So that, I mean, I'm assuming it means vehicle, like goods, services, like stuff for your vehicle. This doesn't look like a dealership, but regardless, it kind of works with the vibe of having a dealership across the road. That actually wasn't intentional. That's a happy little accident, but we have those here sometimes. I also wanted to make sure that we had at least one park in the middle of all of this space. So we have the dog activity park, which is one of my favorite things in the game. I love dog parks in real life. I don't go to them very often, but every time I do, I always make friends with a dog, at least one dog at the dog park. And it just happens whenever I go for walks, man. I have cats run up to me and they're like, hey, pet me. I go to dog parks. They run up. They're like, hey, I get on really well with animals, less so people a lot of the time, but animals, they kind of get me. So I decided to put a dog park in here is what I'm getting at. And I did the same thing over on this side as well. There is a dog park right in the middle of everything, kind of tucked away just a little bit. And I like this. It's simple. It's not, super detailed. It's nothing too crazy. It's nothing too fancy, but it works for Armadillo. And while we're on the topic of things that work for Armadillo, I want to come into this corner of, Kentucky Street and Main Street. And I want to get rid of 3 buildings because there's a new building that we could put in here that I think is going to work perfectly. And it is the Steakhouse from the Leisure Venues pack, creator pack, I think. I have no idea, but it's this guy. And I love that. I love how this thing looks in that corner. I love that it's sort of a unique looking building. I just felt like a steakhouse was something that absolutely belonged in here. And I also would very much like to come in this way. I want to de-zone this space for a second because I think a couple of little row houses in here would be kind of a fantastic idea. So what we're looking for is a lot that is 1 wide. It is 3 deep. It is going to be a row house, and I want a North American row house as well. We have a few options. We have this guy, which I think is pretty good. We have this guy, which is level 5, which might be a bit much, but it does sort of match the height of what's going on next door. The level 4 one is going to be the same as the level 3. And we have this one as well, which is not bad. I do like that it has a fence around the backyard. That kind of makes a little bit more sense to me. And I also like that it's sort of angled. Oh man, is that a little bit too fancy for this space? It might be. It really, really might be. I think these guys are what we're going to go for. And I do like how that's turned out. I like that we have these fenced areas back here. I think that makes sense. What I would love to do though is just go in here and change some of the surfaces. I think we can make this look just a little bit better. So what we'll do is actually go in and we will bulldoze, if at all possible. I'd like to bulldoze this surface and this surface. I don't mind this surface here, but I think we could do better. So I'm going to get rid of that one as well. And then very simply, I think I'd like to go in and drag this surface so it just comes out this way a little bit, and then it comes over this way just a little bit as well. So that's going to be underneath the fronts of these houses. And then for this corner, I think we could go in with something a little bit more unique. Now we have these paving slabs right here. Let's take a look at what exactly that would look like if we put those in here. And that's maybe a little bit too bright for my liking. So let's have a look at brick surfaces. Let's maybe go for red brick and see how we'd be looking with that. Again, maybe a little bit too bright. So once again, let's just go for some clay pavers, because I don't think we can go too wrong with some clay pavers. Yeah, they look pretty good. So we'll bring those out to these corners here. We will bring it down this way as well. And that just gives us a little something, just a little bit of color variation that I absolutely adore. I do think these buildings here should be changed to be more of a red brick. I think that would look pretty good next to what we've got going on. So we'll make it a little bit darker, maybe not just as red as some of the other buildings, but I'm kind of liking where this is going. Although, do I want it to match I don't know if I want it to match the paving stones down there. So maybe we go in a slightly more sandstony kind of direction. Instead of red brick, we'll kind of go for like an off-white or something. I think that looks okay. So we'll copy that over to this building, and I'm okay with that. I think that looks good. I think that looks nice. It is a bit weird having people living on the main street, but I'm a very big fan of how these look. And I think it really just gives us a very unique kind of corner right there, which has me thinking that it might not be a bad idea to do similar on some of these other corners. At least this one, I think, could use some kind of unique building. The problem is we need something that is actually going to be a corner. So if we do a bit of a search in here, we'll turn off all of the theme filters, we'll turn off the building filters, we'll turn off the widths, and we'll just see what we've got. Now we do have some commercial options here. We have the corner theater, which is maybe a little bit big. We have this guy, which is also perhaps a little bit big. We do have some French stuff that we could play with. Maybe we'll stick with level 1 for these buildings so that they're a bit smaller, which the French pack doesn't seem to be. The German ones aren't much smaller either, and these guys are maybe a little bit too modern for this space as well. Although we do have this building, which is from the Eastern European pack, and it's very distinctly not necessarily North American, but to be fair, none of these buildings are either. These are all from the UK pack. So we're building kind of a small North American style town using buildings from mostly Europe, which I guess is fine. I say that all these houses out here are from the US Southwest pack. So we're building something that's a combination of things is what we're building in here. Now, when it comes to this building, I do think we can make it look a little bit better. I think it's a little difficult to see the color of the building right now. So I would like to go in and maybe just change the time of day, if at all possible. I actually don't think there's any time. Oh, this is the day of the year. You know what? I don't think there's any point at which oh, wait a minute. Hour of the, there we go. Now we can see the color of this building, which I love. Don't get me wrong. Very big fan of the purple, very big fan of the blue down here. I like the red trim as well, but I do think for this town, it needs to be a little more understated. So I think we're going to go in, we're going to take out this blue. We're going to make it a little bit lighter. And then for the purple, we're going to go for more of a red. We're going to desaturate it a little bit. We're going to darken it down a little bit. And I think that's okay. I think we can kind of get away with this for this building, although we might want those pillars to be slightly more sandstony. So we'll give them sort of a sandy kind of color, which is about there. We'll desaturate them a bit. We'll darken them a little bit and a little bit more desaturation. They're actually looking awfully pink right now. I think about there is pretty good. And I think that works. I think that's okay for that corner. I like that a lot. The only thing I would love to change is that surface that's going on underneath. So I think same story here. I think we go in, I think we grab this surface. I think we can just bring it back to here. I think we bring this one back to here. I think we bring this underneath the building so it's nicely out of the way. And I think we do the same thing just down here. And then we'll go in again with this this clay paver and just bring it around the edges of the building, hopefully with anarchy on so things don't get a little bit weird here. Bringing it up to there, bringing it out to about there, and then all the way up to this guy gives us a beautiful surface underneath that corner of that building. And I've got to say, I like that a lot. I really do. I think it just gives this square a bit more of a social feel, and that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted something that feels a little bit more open, a little bit more social, a little bit more cozy, comfortable, and welcoming. And that kind of has me wanting to do the same thing over on the other side as well. So I'm not going to spend forever doing this. I do have a couple of other projects I want to deal with today in Columbia County. So very quickly, we can go into these corners and we can figure out, I need to turn that menu off as well. In fact, no, I don't. I need to set it back to this time of day so we have light on these buildings. And now I turn it off and figure out what's going in these corners. Okay, I've been looking at this corner for a little while and trying to figure out what building should go here. And I'm going to do something that I think is perhaps a little controversial. And I say that as in, I think it would be controversial in Armadillo for a building like this to exist on that corner, because it's very modern. It's very different. It doesn't blend in, and that's kind of the point. It's like, you know, this is a lot that became available, and for some reason, some developer decided it would be a great idea to come in here and build this, whatever this is going to be. This apartment building is just so out of place, but I kind of like that it's out of place. I also don't know if I can change. Oh, I can totally change some of the colors. That is going to be our, I don't know what that's changing. That's changing the wood. I can make it a little bit more desaturated, which is kind of cool. I'm very much on board for doing that. And then this is our sort of windows there, which am I able to sort of make those any other color? I sort of can. And I'm willing to say that like a blue might be kind of nice in there, sort of like a slightly faded blue, just to not stand out too much. Or maybe it does stand out. Maybe we go for like a, definitely not all of this, but maybe we do go for something that sticks out a little bit. Maybe like a purple would be a choice for that window. I'm really not too sure. I don't think orange, red, yellow, I don't think that's going to be our color scheme. Maybe a sort of greenish, bluish color is where we're going to settle for this. And I think that's okay. I think the fact that it doesn't blend in is the point of this building from my point of view. From like the armadillo point of view, I do think the people would be really upset about this. I don't think they would love it at all. And then maybe there was a little lot just at the back here that was available, and it's going to be there for row houses is what it's going to be there for. So let's figure out exactly what kind of row house we're putting back here. It is going to be an American one because they just kind of fit the best. The width is 1, obviously. The depth is 3, and we have this guy, which is okay, I suppose. But I would like to, I don't know, maybe go and grab another one of these guys. Maybe that would be the right option, actually. Just going for something a little bit bigger might be the way to go on this. So we'll do this guy at the back, and I'm okay with that. I think I'm okay with that. I think that kind of works. I don't know how I feel about it being much taller than the other building though. So maybe something a bit smaller. And you know, I think all things considered, this is a pretty good little revamp of the middle of Armadillo. Yes, that building is going to annoy some of the residents down here, but I think this has the vibe that I was looking for. I saw that steakhouse. I was going through Find It after recording the last episode, and I saw that steakhouse and thought, man, that should be in here. That belongs in the middle of Armadillo, and I like how this looks. I think it just changes it a little bit. It gives it a little bit more character. And this is something I'd like to come back and keep doing with Armadillo, is just changing little parts of it to give it more character. But for now, I think we can move on from this part of Armadillo. because I'm thinking I want to buy these 3 map tiles down here, and I would like to build some kind of factory out this way, because I do think Armadillo is going to be that kind of town. I think it would be a good working town. It's got a lot of industry going on. So what I want to do is go and get myself a section of highway. I want to get just the regular 2-lane highway, and I want to go about here. We'll turn anarchy off so that any trees that get in the way we are getting rid of, but I do want to put them back in here at some point. Essentially, I just want to follow this farm though and line up with that road up there. So we'll bring this over. We are going to bring this straight down to about here. And that now gives us another little road that leads straight into Armadillo. I'm not super interested in traffic going nuts and using this road. I'm kind of hoping that they don't use it too much. But the reason this road would even exist would be for something like the fuel plant, which is a pretty decent looking industrial building. I think it looks all right. So I think we'll go in, and I think we can maybe swap out a part of this little regional road for an alleyway for the time being. Or is it about this size? No, it's not that size either. I think we'll use the alleyway just so I have some zoning in here. And I think I'd like to go ahead and place the fuel plant. Now, this is going to give us +2 industrial efficiency across the entire city, -5 air pollution, and -5 ground pollution across the city as well. So it's going to live right about there. And it's all right looking. I do think we can have some fun with this. I do think we can expand the footprint of this guy a little bit. And I'm almost thinking that it might not be the worst idea in the world. Obviously, it needs services as well, but it might not be the worst idea to actually give this guy its own little road access thing. There's a word I'm looking for there that escapes me, but I'm looking to give this thing just its own little section of road. So I'll tell you what, let me go ahead and do something like this. Let me bring this guy back over, and I think we'll leave it. We'll move it away from the regional road just a little bit, because I think that kind of makes sense. I think we could maybe play around with the idea of a one-way road as the access to this thing. So we'll do something like this. We'll do something like this, and we'll change out this guy to also be a one-way road sort of going through there. So that's kind of how you get into this thing. And I think that means we can change this guy back to our previous regional road, since we don't need all that zoning anymore. And I'm kind of okay with that. I think that immediately gives it its own little footprint. But I would also like to maybe go in here and put some roads around it so that I can put more assets back here if that's a thing that I decide I want to do, which I kind of think it is. I think I'd like to just play around a little bit with some other buildings out here just to make this thing that little bit more industrial, make it feel like it's more of just a full plant out here rather than this one building. But I also think to make that happen, we are going to take out just a bunch of these trees so I can really get an idea of the land that we're working with. So all of those guys can go away. And then when it comes to the buildings in here, we have a bunch of oil storage buildings available as regular industrial buildings. So what I think I'd like to do is have a look at what's available at the higher levels here. Now, these guys are pretty, there's some pretty good looking assets, but I want to be very particular with what I build out here, because we don't need to overdo it. I think that's something to be mindful of. I don't want to have anything that looks just over the top is kind of what I'm wanting to avoid. So I think I might do a little something like this, and I think I might do another one right there. And I think I'd like to bring this road sort of out and around those. Now, those have a depth of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we want to go to here, bring this down, and then get rid of this extra part. I think we can maybe make this a little one-way road just around here, because I think that makes sense. And I think we go in and we put more of these guys back here. And I think we also go and use move it. We'll use the marquee tool. We want to grab all of this. In fact, I want to grab everything we're doing here, all of these sections of road, and make them level so that everything is nice and flat. And that's kind of important to me. I'm also thinking we have these little bits of sand down here. Do I want to keep those? Do I want to keep that grass visible in there as well? I don't know that I do, but I also don't know that we're ever going to look at this place in as much detail as we're going to be looking at it right now. So I don't know if it matters is kind of what I'm thinking. I'm also wondering if we want to maybe build some train access to this whole thing, because that is something we could do. And that's something, I mean, we have a freight yard up here, so maybe we don't need, or maybe we do need train access to this. I wouldn't be against it. I might be overdoing it now though, but I wouldn't be against some train access to this. So let's play around a little bit and see what we can do. I'm not actually wanting to have trains coming down here. That's something I'm not really interested in. And unfortunately, if I do this, I'm going to have this little floating symbol here the entire time telling me that it's not connected, which is really frustrating because I would like some train tracks coming down here. So this might not be an option, unfortunately. We do have this section of track though, which actually works so much better. So that might be what we go for. Can I just double that up? No, I can do this though. I could just do, oh man, am I about to do just a whole set of tracks here just purely for the aesthetics? I think I might be. And this is not, I didn't, look, here's the thing. I think we've talked about this before. I very rarely plan what I'm going to do in any of these videos. And with this one, it's kind of no exception. I didn't really sit down and think I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do the other. It wasn't that deep, but I had a vague idea of some things I would like to do. The Steakhouse was one, this fuel refinery is another, and there's a third thing that we're probably going to get to that is another. Putting some train tracks in here was not one of the things I was expecting to do today, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I think we can make it work. Can I get let me bring you out to here. Let me actually just bring this down a little bit so I have that marked. Bring this out about 72, and can I get a 45 or a 135 angle on this? I absolutely can. Now that's okay. I want to put a cut right here, and I want to drag you out. We're taking out these middle parts, and then some way, somehow, I would like to connect this all together. So this is going to come out and curve up to there. And then you are going to run into there, and it does work. You are going to run into there, and that doesn't work. And you are going to run into there, and that doesn't work either. Okay. That's not quite what I wanted, but that's fine. Can I be so bold as to run some track through here and then take out these parts, and we can now curve all of these. I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to curve all of these into this guy as much as we possibly can. So you're going to curve up to there, and you are going to curve up to about there. That's not that's not quite worked, is what that's done. That's gone quite badly. Okay, so this gives us some train lines coming in here, which is what I'm looking for. The next thing I'd like to do is place a bunch of warehouses in here because I think it just makes sense. Now, this asset right here is kind of perfect for what I want to do if I go ahead and overlap it a bunch of times, which might look a little bit silly and kind of repetitive, but it's kind of something I'm okay with doing. I don't know that I want the entire length of this to be just the same building over and over again, but it does kind of have the vibe I'm looking for. I'm also wondering if it would be an idea to grab these buildings and move them back so that they actually sit on some tracks. So it's kind of like the trains are going into that building. I'm not against it. I would just need to bring some road out to connect everything together. But then that begs the question, well, why does it have all these garage doors on the side? I guess maybe for cargo. I really don't know, but I don't dislike this idea. The only problem I have with it is, like I said, we need to put a road in here, which actually we can totally do. We have the technology to put a road right about here, which is kind of perfect for this entire thing. It might end up needing to be sort of a one-way road for this, which I'm, again, not against doing. I think this could be like a little one-way thing. I think that's okay. I think that kind of works. I just need something that looks like I need something that makes it look like the trains can actually go in there. I also need to go and delete the fence from right about there, and probably the fence off of all of these, and probably some surfaces from under all of these as well, because we have quite a few of those. So we'll take the fences out of here, at least to begin with. And then I think we will go through and we're just going to tear out all of these surfaces. I can put my own surfaces in here at some points. I can put some gravel like underneath the tracks. I need to be rid of most of these surfaces, I think, to make this really work. So I've been looking at this and trying to figure out how exactly we can make it look like there's train platforms in here. And then it kind of hit me that we have these wooden leisure piers, which, while they don't sound like they would make for good train platforms, I don't necessarily hate the look of this. I think this looks kind of cool. I just need to turn off my various snapping options so it'll behave a little bit. But I think we could bring this down to here, and from a distance, I think that looks really good. So I'm going to do the same thing right in here as well, and I'm going to do the same thing up on this side as well. And I think that kind of gives us some train platforms. I think that kind of looks the part for what I want in here, and I'm just sort of wondering, can I bring this all together in a way that's not going to look terrible? Like if I bring you up to here, bring you up to there, bring this out, bring you up to there, and get rid of this guy. I mean, that looks like a bunch of train platforms as far as I'm concerned. And then if I go in and grab this and just lower it down to the level of the path, it's a way to sort of get up onto the platforms. Obviously they are floating, which isn't exactly ideal. I could do roads in here. I could make my own paths, but I sort of like these. I like that they're wood. They're clearly wooden, but it's kind of a cool look to it. I just like it. I do. I just like it. I had considered trying to use these keys in here, and I don't think they would look terrible, but the train things, these piers just kind of fit perfectly. It's very difficult to like not use them when they just fit perfectly, man. They really do. They're absolutely perfect. A little bit less so down here at the end, but we'll hide some crimes down there eventually. I might also want to look into like getting rid of all of the seating along here. I think that might be a good idea. I think these signs can maybe go as well, just because I don't necessarily think they belong on what is essentially a cargo train platform, but that's fine. Just a little bit of something to take all that out. And I think that looks good. I do. I think that looks really good. I think the last thing we need to go and do is search up, I was looking for platforms, but if we look for some train props, we can go in here and we can get ourselves some cargo train props that I'm very excited to use. We have a couple of different options here. I like this one. I think this is what we're going to go for. And then very simply, I say simply, very simply, we'll put it right there. We can do another one right about there. It doesn't have to be perfect. And we'll use the other one, which is an EU style cargo train. And we'll put it right up here. And that gives us a couple of cargo trains. This is going to need some of these types of containers, since we're doing like fuel here. And then somehow, some way, I need to get these all to connect is what I need to do. So right about there, I think is what I'm looking for. I actually, can I get rid of these? Is that a thing we can do? I feel like I read somewhere that you actually can't bulldoze these when they've been placed, which might be true. Oh, you totally can. That's great news. Okay. I feel like I read that somewhere a long time ago. And ever since reading that, I've been slightly freaked out at the idea of not being able to bulldoze my train props. but I think this is what we'll go for. We want to space these guys out a little bit so that they actually behave. We want to go a little bit further than what we've got there. We'll go up to 9.5. Let's maybe not do fence mode on these, and let's go even further so that, well, if we didn't have these big white dots, I'd actually be able to see what's going on. I think I'm using the wrong type of, I might have been using the wrong type of line tool there. I'm not 100% sure. No, I'm using the right one. Let's bring these a little bit further apart. Looks like it's going to be about 16 meters, which is completely fine by me. So as long as these are going straight down the track here, we should have a pretty good looking cargo train, if I do say so myself. I think the next one, we can go ahead and make it just a little bit longer, just so we have a bit of variation in our cargo trains. So we'll go to about there. And I might have this one haul something else. It doesn't necessarily make sense that it'd be hauling something else, but I think it's going to haul something else just so we have a bit of variety in here in terms of the shapes and sizes. These guys are also a little bit smaller, so we want to bring those in to about 15 meters. Let me make sure it's still connected to the train up here. It absolutely is. So we'll bring this one out. It's not going to be as long as that middle one, and it's going to go to about there. And that looks fantastic. That looks so, so good. I am wondering, and I totally can recolor this. So this one I think is going to go for sort of a dark kind of green color, I think is what we're going to do for the EU style train. This guy is going to go for like a red. I think we'll go for like a nice sort of deep dark red on that train. We have some other colors we can change as well. I think this is the, yeah, we're doing that. We're doing the white stripe around the middle, and I don't know what this changes. I've got absolutely no idea. So we'll just leave it white. This guy has that gray on the side, which I want to also make green, I think, but like maybe a darker sort of green like this. So it's a very green train. And then this one, I mean, we have it in yellow already, maybe just a slightly stronger yellow with like a darker stripe. So it's kind of got like a bumblebee thing going on. I think that's pretty cool. And then for the tanker cars, do I want them all to be the same color? I don't know that I do, but I don't hate the idea of getting rid of the ones that are super vibrant colors. I think we can kind of darken those down a little bit, and I think that's okay. I think we make this one a bit darker as well. I think we do the same thing over on this side. So we'll grab the more dull colors for a lot of this. I don't mind the blue ones in there, but I definitely think we want to sort of go for some slightly darker colors in a few of these. This one can keep some of the green containers just for some variety, but I think that's kind of what we're looking for. I think that's pretty good. All right, this took so much longer than I thought it was going to, and I could probably keep going with this as well. It's one of those things that reminds me of something I heard George Lucas say, not in person, but it was in some Star Wars documentary. He said something to the effect of movies are never finished, they just escape. It was along those lines. I'm not saying that what I've built here is the City Skylines equivalent to Star Wars by any means, but that's something I find myself feeling a lot when playing City Skylines, or when playing Transport Fever 2, which is another series in the channel I do recommend checking out because it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like this and you might enjoy it. Anyway, I just wanted to get that plug in there. But yeah, I find myself feeling like my builds are never finished, and that's not me saying that I'm rushing to get this done. It's me saying that I will just keep building and building and building, and I will never be satisfied with anything that I build. So eventually I have to say, okay, enough is enough. Although I will allow myself to come in here and put a district around this because I am very proud of what I've managed to do here. It's, you know, it's nothing too crazy. It's nothing too fancy, as is sort of the motto around here, but it is a good looking fuel refinery as far as I'm concerned. And that's what matters, is that we now have not Manor Bluff, but the Armadillo fuel refinery is what we're going to call that one, much like we have the Armadillo freight yard, power plant, and well, we have the coal company in here. But I like this a lot. I love how this has turned out, and it's definitely kind of the vibe that I wanted for something just on this side of the tracks outside of Armadillo. It kind of makes the town, oh, a little bit out of focus there. It makes the town feel like, you know, it was built and it was, I mean, it's surrounded by industry, absolutely swamped by industry. And that's kind of what I want it to be. It is very much an industry driven town. This town exists because there is a quarry. It exists because there are farms. It exists because there was the train station probably came after, but it exists because there's a refinery. I love that it's just a little, it's a wee little industrial town. I also kind of want to come through here and just get a few more trees alongside these farms just to really have that divide between my little regional road and the farms themselves. These farms, by the way, are just surfaces. They're not functional, but I am considering putting a functional farm into this space, or maybe saving this space for something else. I honestly don't know. Let me know in the comments if we should even build anything in here, because it might be just overdoing it at that point. I'm kind of thinking farms. I want to stay away from heavy industry like what we have here. So something a little bit smaller, more low key, more humble, like a farm might be the right call. But let me know in the comments what you think should go in that corner, if anything at all. Now, I mentioned towards the start of the video that I have 3 things that I want to do today. Thing number 1 was the steakhouse. Thing number 2 was the fuel refinery. And thing number 3 brings us back to Blackwater. Because this bridge that we have right here and the roads connecting to it are routinely jam-packed with traffic, and I want to do something about that. And so the first thing I'm going to do is come in here and take out a bunch of these trees that are lining this bridge, because I want to make the bridge itself a little bit wider. I think that would be a really good idea, just giving it an extra lane down here to start the process of making this thing just a little bit better. So we want it to be elevated, of course. I do want this to all line up perfectly, if that's going to be an option. And it looks like, not quite. It's not quite doing it. So I think what I'm going to try my best to do here, we'll have anarchy on to begin with. In fact, I wonder if it would be an idea to just go in here and bulldoze this existing part of the bridge right here and this part of the bridge right here. And then we just go in and try to rebuild what I've just gotten rid of, which might have actually been a really bad idea, because I'm not 100% sure that this is going to work. I might have slightly messed up by doing that, but I think I can make it work. I just need it to line up with that lane, and I need it to come down to there. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. That's kind of phase number 1 of this little expansion, but phase number 2 involves making this road a little bit wider, and I want to try and make it wider the entire way through here, right up to this regional road down here. So that's going to be kind of tricky, because we have a lot of buildings in here I'd really rather not get rid of, if I can possibly avoid doing that. Now, in some cases, I can make this into a 4-lane road and everything should be okay, right? We can make this a bit wider, and it kind of takes away some of the sidewalk, or some of like the footprint of some of these buildings. It's not going to be as easy as that everywhere though. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start well, does this have grass in front of it? It does. Man, this is, so here's my logic, right? Here's the way I'm thinking about this. Here's why I'm not just bulldozing stuff and getting rid of it. I'm trying to think of this from the point of view of the city. I'm trying to think of this from the point of view of the relevant authorities here. And what they want to do is avoid taking land away from these buildings, from the people that live here. That's kind of the thing they want to avoid doing, because they will have to pay them a ton of money to take their land, especially if that involves, you know, taking the building down, right? They have to buy out the entire building, bulldoze it, you know, build whatever, and sell the land. It's a whole thing. I don't know a lot about cities and like the things that go into making cities work. I just know that land, especially in like a downtown area like this, even in a relatively small city like Blackwater, it's gonna be expensive. And if the local councils can avoid spending that money, they're probably going to. So this idea here doesn't quite work. But what I do know is that a lot of the traffic that comes through here, a lot of the traffic that backs up is usually coming off of this bridge. So maybe right here doesn't need to be turned into a 4-lane road. Maybe right here just needs 2 lanes going down here and 1 going that way. Although, oh, hold on a minute. Have I got this elevated? I absolutely do. Let me just change that out like so. So that's all fine. And then I think we could probably go in and say that we maybe don't want, we probably don't want traffic lights here, right? That's probably something we want to get rid of. And I'm also going to get rid of the crosswalks in here just because I kind of want to push people to the ends of this road where there are traffic lights, and there probably should be traffic lights. Now, looking in here, we do have multiple lanes going back and forth here, but I'm kind of wondering, once again, do we maybe want to flip this around and say that the multiple lanes are going to be going, well, these can go away to begin with, but the multiple lanes are going to be going this way instead of towards that bridge? Because again, we kind of tend to have more traffic going one way than the other. And this might be the cheapest way to solve this issue. This might be the cheapest way where we avoid having to you know, build entirely new roads in here. Although this hospital, we could imagine, is, I mean, again, I know nothing about it. It might be a private thing. It doesn't matter. I'm thinking we can maybe take a little bit of land away from the hospital because it's essentially unused. I mean, yes, it's got some grass and hedges in here, but it's basically not used. So if I was to go in and build something like this, where we're kind of moving the road into the land that's currently owned by the hospital, we can at least keep 2 lanes going straight towards this guy, which might not be a bad idea. So we're going to give that a bit of a shot, which means obviously this intersection's a bit of a mess, but I think we can work with that. And I think what I'm going to have to do right here is go in and take out all of these hedges. I'm going to have to take this out of here. I am going to have to take these net lanes out of here, and some way, somehow, I'm going to have to go in and take out all of these trees that are now in the middle of the road, which we don't want to have. And I think I also want to say that maybe we go ahead and put the grass back on this side. So we're kind of keeping a little bit of that nature in there, which I think is a good thing. We'll put some trees in there as well, and maybe even go so far as swapping those out for, do we want to do poplar trees in there? I actually think it's probably fine as is. Actually, no, I want to do poplar trees. I like my poplar trees. I do. Those are, yeah, poplar trees. I just had to make sure that I wasn't using the wrong ones. And then when it comes to all of this, very, very simply, we just go in and kind of replace what we got rid of. So we bring this out to this corner. We bring it up to about there. And I'm just going to sort of redraw these outlines because it's kind of what I've got to do. That tree can go away. Can I get rid of these as well? I totally can, which really tidies up that space. Very much a fan of doing that. And then in here, I think we just go ahead and rebuild that little bit of wall that we're now missing. I think we just kind of outline this space again. I don't know that we need to do that here. I might do a little bit of wall just here so people can kind of like, well, you know what? I want to do that wall the entire way along. I think. I want to go from here to there just to sort of enclose things a little bit, and then we can throw some trees in. We can make this place look as good as new, since it kind of is, you know, it's a whole new little thing that we've done here. Nice big tree right in there. And you would basically be none the wiser. I mean, this is, it's a wider road. We took a little bit of hospital away, but for the most part, it looks fine. Traffic is behaving about how I expected it to, in that we have a lot of it now going through here because my lane management kind of sucks. So there's no way this is all, there's no way this is all because I just changed those lanes around. This might just be rush hour kicking. In fact, it is. It's 9 in the morning. So there are traffic problems in Blackwater quite regularly, but this is hopefully going to start to help fix those problems. We have a few more lanes. We have a little bit of parking here. We have a lot of traffic trying to come through here as well. We might just need to make a few more adjustments. I do know, and I have seen some comments talking about this, I do know that we probably need more access across the river, because as it stands right now, you know, we have this bridge over here that isn't used all that much, but then we have these two, this one especially. I mean, look at this. Look at this. This is so many people coming through here. Essentially what we've done is it's kind of create this as the main, you know, if we consider this north and this south, the two main routes to go from north to south or south to north cuts through the heart of Blackwater. So at some point we might want to build, you know, a little bridge out here that takes you over the river, and maybe a little bridge, and we have this as well, but a little something that takes you from like down here over to there might not be a bad idea, just to sort of take some of the traffic away from central Blackwater, because the changes that I've made here have done basically nothing. They've done, yeah, basically nothing. I am noticing in saying that, well, no, we have 2 lanes going forward. Traffic's not really filtering the way I thought it would, but you know what? It's okay. Believe it or not, this is better than it has been. So this is an improvement, even if it doesn't look like one. Okay, so it's clear that I'm going to have to spend more time on traffic in Blackwater, but that is something we can focus on a little bit later on in another episode, because that is going to do us for today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. This has been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, even if it takes a little while, which it hopefully won't for the next episode, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.